Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Tuesday, the 25th day of February, 2025. And as the hostage ceasefire situation in Israel remains a stalemate, with everyone unsure of what's going to happen next, it's important that we take some time and look at the bigger picture from a biblical point of view, as well as from what is happening in the world right now. Scripture clearly teaches about a last days invasion of Israel by a number of countries led by a Russian leader with the title Gog. This has not happened yet any time in history. Three of the leading participants in this invasion continue to be in the headlines, namely Russia, Iran, and Turkey. In fact, each of them has made today's headlines. We're going to talk about that. But first, two housekeeping things. Number one, our meeting yesterday with David Tal and Nader, our Iranian friend, was beyond amazing. I wish you all could have been there. There were some things said, obviously, that couldn't be broadcast. Both of these men have worked in areas which are top secrets, so they shared some things that, stayed with us, obviously. But what a wonderful time hearing the miraculous testimony of each of these men who were fighters, who were warriors. David, a tank commander, Nader, who fought for the Mujahideen against the Ayatollah in Iran and had to run for his life out of the country, was a Muslim, became a Bible believing Christian after being an atheist coming to America. David's testimony of um, believing in Jesus, having a time of backsliding, and then the last 5 years turning his life back around. And now they're both warriors for the gospel of Jesus Christ. And fabulous, fabulous testimonies. We'll hopefully can do some more of that and talk a little bit more about that in the future. But it was a wonderful time, very encouraging. And we're going to be get together now as a group more often. We'll get a couple more guys adding to it that have wonderful testimonies and have quite a history of making an impact in this world. So that was our meeting yesterday. It was really a blessing. Number two, we've had some issues in the past, and we have them right now with our website. In fact, my service provider does not allow me to go on my own website. It's my site is blocked, so it's a security issue. So we're trying to figure that out. This has happened in the past. We've had different shall we say, different organizations try and stop us from what we're doing and block the material. That's why we did the app, for one thing. Just a reminder, we do have an app called EOW with Don Stewart. It's free from the App Store, both an Apple and an Android. And you can, watch everything there. If the latest story, this story today will be the one that pops up. When you go on the website, you can read all the material there from the various books, and that's so you can get that. YouTube still works. You can get on that variety of different ways. But the website Educating Our World, most of you still can get it. But in our area, the ones that have our service provider, it's been blocked for some reason. We're trying to find out why. And so this is not unusual. Now, the great news is, in spite of all of that, basically it'll be tomorrow, it looks like, where we're going to hit the 8 million mark, 8 million views since we started about a little over about 21 and a half months ago, May in 2023, we started doing these things. And the Lord's really blessed. And it's in spite of the fact we have no radio program, no TV program, and I don't publicly speak anymore. And so thank you for spreading the word. Please continue to do it. But again, download the app, because if all else fails, you can watch us on that and read the material on that. So it's there for everything's free too. We don't charge for anything. That's our ministry. So please take advantage of it. All right. Now, what's amazing now is we're going to get back to what we're talking about. Three different participants in this last day's invasion that all have warring instincts that are into adventurism, according to scripture, and they work together to invade Israel in the last days. It is amazing how today each of them are huge in the headlines. And let's look at it and let's ask ourselves the question, could this have happened by chance? Is this just a coincidence? Were the writers of scripture, Ezekiel 2,650 years ago, just making lucky guesses when he talked about the time of the end? We think not. All right, let's look at headline number one. Trump issues dire World War III warning if Russia-Ukraine deal is not worked out as he meets Macron. Now, he met Macron, and Macron and him seem to become best buddies now, thinking the possibility that the Ukraine Russia war will end very soon. Anyway, here's the story. President Trump outlined on Monday the stakes in play if a peace deal is not secured in Ukraine, warning that the overspill could trigger World War III. There will be a point when it is not going to stop at these two countries, and our next story is going to illustrate that. Already there is such involvement from other countries it could really lead to a very big war, World War III, and we're not going to let it happen. He made his remarks as Emmanuel Macron of France became the first European leader to visit the White House on the day. Yesterday was the day marking the third anniversary of Russian troops marching into Ukraine. European fears Europe fears that Trump is trying to railroad them into a deal with Ukraine's support. Ukraine's support only will have intensified as he outlined progress in his talks with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Some of these stories, they don't write the sentences very well. Anyway, the bottom line is the Europeans are afraid Trump's going to get them in a deal with Russia become part of it that they can't get out of. It's going to eventually lead to a war. Several years down the line between Russia and Europe. Anyway, at the same time, Trump said, I'm in serious discussion with President Putin of Russia concerning the ending of the war and also major economic development transactions which will take place between the U.S. and Russia. He wrote on Truth Social after joining the G7 conference call with Macron. Talks, he said, are proceeding very well. All right. Though the Soviet Union does not exist any longer, Russia is still a major player in the world. Among the reasons is its weaponry that it possesses, as our next story indicates. Headline number 2, NATO scrambles warplanes in Poland as Putin uses nuke capability strategic bombers to pound the neighboring Ukraine. This is from the UK Daily Mail. NATO was forced to scramble its warplanes in Poland today as Vladimir Putin used strategic bombers and missiles to attack neighboring Ukraine, even as Vladimir Putin insists he wants peace as soon as possible. His Air Force deployed these nuclear-capable strategic bombers to pound targets across Ukraine, causing panic in Kiev as residents rushed for the metro underground shelters. February 24th, which is yesterday, marked 3 years since Russian troops invaded Ukraine. It's also the Estonian Independence Day. The Baltic state has been a member of NATO, that's Estonia, for 21 years. Now, there is movement, as we say here, to the eventual ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. And as this is happening, Russia is using the time to flex its muscles and receive the maximum benefits from this costly war. In other words, assuming that the end is coming soon, they're going to try and take as much territory, cause as much problems in Ukraine as they can. So when it's time to divvy up the spoils, what's left, they will be in a position to do very well. So anyway, we have continually emphasized here that this war must eventually stop. It's got to stop to allow Russia to zero in on the invasion of Israel at some time in the future. And before the invasion can take place, Russia and Ukraine must have some type of permanent ceasefire in place for Russia to be able to take its army and use it to invade Israel. Well, now the whole army is in fighting Ukraine. So that's still future, but we're keeping an eye on that. Now, Iran, number 2, is also in the global picture, as our next story indicates. Headline number 3 from the Jerusalem Post. Trump imposes sanctions on Iranian trade for maximum pressure campaign. The sanctions were being done to stem the flow of revenue the regime uses to fund destabilizing activities. The U.S. has decided to impose sanctions on 8 entities engaged in Iranian petroleum and petrochemical trade and is identifying 8 vessels as their blocked property, the State Department announced. This is part of his campaign for maximum pressure on Iran. It added that the Iranian regime continues to destabilize global security with its nuclear threat, ballistic missile program, and support for terrorist groups. Now, like Russia, Iran has a history of being a regional power. In fact, if you remember, it takes all the way back to the Bible days. Prophet Daniel was told there when he was in Babylon that the fall of the Babylonian Empire would take place and a second empire would replace the Medo-Persian, which eventually became the Persian Empire, and which is modern day Iran. And Iran was also, that geographical area was busy in the first century fighting with Rome and the kingdom of Parthia at that particular time. So Iran's been featured historically as a major empire, and they're one of the, like I said, one of the 4 major ones predicted to arise in the world, number 2. And so today, though, it's something different because we're on the other side with Shia Islam. Once Islam in the 7th century arose, with Shia Islam's theology, Iran once again believes it can be the power that will bring in the worldwide Islamic rule. So they've got a theological, spiritual reason they're doing this. In doing so, as we've talked about many times, they must destroy the great Satan, the United States, and the little Satan, Israel. Hence their quest to construct a nuclear weapon and a delivery system that'll reach both the USA and Israel. And so This is something that's, in the works right now. And we know that they will be a subordinate to Russia. Like we've said over and over again, they're not going to be the power in the Middle East. That will be Russia down the line, but they will still have some, teeth, although there'll be a lot of it be pulled if their nuclear program is put on the wayside, which it seems to happen. So you got Iran now, again, with its military adventurism and all the stuff that's happening with Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in northern, southern Lebanon, northern Israel. Now we come to Turkey and its adventurism because the next headline, again, you can't make this stuff up. Turkey, Israel's next big threat. Interesting. With the establishment of the new regime in Syria, supported by Ankara, the deployment of Turkish forces, and the escalating rhetoric since the start of Operation Iron Swords, no one in Israel wants to be caught off guard. Recent events in our region, especially in Syria, remind us of an important fact. Turkey is bigger than Turkey. This is from Erdogan, the leader of Turkey, is the president, in a speech he made December 18th of last year. The Turkish president's words should be read against the backdrop of the balance of terror between his country and Israel, which have long maintained a love-hate relationship, receiving a significant twist in the wake of the current war. This has intensified further, the article goes on to say, following the fall of the Assad regime in Syria and the establishment of the new government in Damascus, led by Ahmad al-Shara, who has enjoyed long-standing support from where? From Turkey. This is reflected, among other things, in the recommendations that Israel had called the Nagel Committee, which were submitted to Prime Minister Netanyahu last month. Although the committee was meant to examine the defense budget, the final report refers to the Turkish threat in razor-sharp words. Israel may find itself facing a new threat that will emerge in Syria, which in some respects will be no less severe than the previous one. The problem will be exacerbated if the Syrian force effectively becomes a Turkish proxy as part of Turkey's dream, and here's the deal, of restoring the Ottoman crown to its former glory. The presence of Turkish proxies or Turkish forces in Syria could deepen a direct Turkish-Israeli confrontation. So here we go. These last words need to be read again. They warn of a direct Turkish-Israeli confrontation. And again, it encourages Israel to adopt a different approach of zero containment towards Syria, which could, so they will be like, they want to be like ripe fruit, which Syria is, and that Erdogan can pick and put his, base there and put his, armaments there, the Turkish army moving into Syria. Now, again, what we know is Syria itself will not be part of this last day's invasion, but Turkey certainly will. And the one way to reach Israel, Turkey borders Syria on the north, and Syria, of course, borders Israel on the south. And so Turkey is right there, stage set. Now, there's escalating rhetoric there. Where Turkey can invade Israel. They've said that before. Erdogan said that, just as we did in Karkaba in Libya, and he threatened last July during a meeting of his Justice and Development Party that he can invade Israel if he wants. Well, eventually he's going to be part of it, the invasion. So what we have here, along with Russia, with its worldwide goals, Iran, which again get back their desire to bring in this empire of Islam in the entire world, Turkey, with the former Ottoman Empire, which ruled for 400 years, over 1 million square miles. They had under their control in the 19th century, 400-year rule in the Middle East and elsewhere, and they want to get back that type of domination in the world. So Iran has a history of world empire. Turkey has a history of a huge empire. Russia, of course, wants to be, and Russia has the weaponry to force others to join it. So here's the bottom line. Basically, these three nations, which are in the headlines because of their military adventurism, each has its own reason. And at the end of the day, the Bible predicts that they will join together, led by Russia, and invade Israel because this tiny country has something they want and something they need. So to sum up, their present military buildup and present exploits, from this, we can see a path to this happen sometime in the future because they're all three countries moving that way. Now, for a thorough explanation of what's going on, you'll want to see our website, Educating Our World, and 3 different books we've written. One is 25 Signs We're Near the End, signs 9 through 11. The Ezekiel 38-39 invasion, the whole book's about that. And then our book, Look Up, a timeline of 50 last days events. like all of our material that we have on our website, Educating Our World, everything's free, free download. You can download all the videos. You can download we've got 65 different uh, books on 11 different topics. They're all free for download on 11 different subjects, including 12 on Bible prophecy. Please take advantage of them. Now, we know from the predictions of Scripture that this is how it's all going to eventually turn out. What we see right now are events that will make this a reality one day. With Turkey, Iran, and Russia all in the headlines with their military adventurism, you really can't make this stuff up. So all this was predicted 2,500, 2,600 years ago by the prophet Ezekiel, and has been emphasized by Bible prophecy students for hundreds of years that this is going to happen at the time of the end. And voila, here we are. The stage is getting set. Exciting time to be alive, isn't it? All right, I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.